I want to thank everyone for coming here today in this transitional time for Strolling of the Heifers. It's a very exciting time. Strolling of the Heifers, the idea was born in 2020, excuse me, 22 years ago. And it was just a crazy idea I had. And it developed and developed and developed. Our first Strolling of the Heifers was in 2021. And who would have ever thought that it would have such a life? And the beautiful thing about Strolling of the Heifers, not only did it connect people with the food they ate, but it brought community together. And it brought community from other parts of the country to come to Brattleboro. And we're hoping that will continue. So we have some pieces to share with you that Strolling of the Heifers was able to do, and we all hands down agreed it was a fabulous idea. We provided some funds for the Brattleboro Downtown Alliance, and Kate Traskis is here, and she can talk about that as well. But we're leaving them $25,000 to carry on our mission, which is to connect people with the food they eat. And Kate will speak to that. And the other wonderful news is that we provided $175,000 to the Winston Prouty Center, earmarked for their new mixed housing development. And the earmark is for landscaping in a way that it will connect people with the food they eat and bring the community together. And Chloe Leary is here to speak about that. Our other very long time partner from day one is the Brattleboro Retreat. And I'm so happy that Eric Rosenbauer is here to join us. And not many people know how much the retreat has done for the Strolling of the Heifers. One thing that they have done is they have given us free storage for all those wonderful tents and all the equipment we needed to put on the parade and festival. So we are passing on those tents and equipment onto the retreat where they can use it for their events and other community functions. And Eric can speak to that. And the partnerships we have with the wonderful media has been overwhelming. And we truly, truly appreciate it. The other piece is where Strolling of the Heifers is going. And you know, I think that the Parade and Festival for our organization had a wonderful run. And it was a wonderful thing for the town and so forth. But you know, when you talk to farmers, what they need is more technology. And that's the area that the Strolling of the Heifers is moving to. And we have created the Vermont Ag Center, and Daniel Smith will speak about the Vermont AgriTech Center, which is an institute for thinking about new ways to help farmers. And we all know that farmers need more technology, especially small farmers. Big farmers have all the technology, the latest technology, but the small farmers don't. So how do we support and continue supporting our small farmers? And we're first starting off at the very beginning with dairy, because it's a huge issue for Vermont. But this institute will focus on all agriculture, but right now it is focusing on dairy and trying to help small farmers with that. And Daniel Smith is here, and he's the new director of the program, and he's going to speak about it. So Daniel, why don't you start right now and tell people about that for a minute.
Right, Bob.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to everybody for being here. This is I think a big day for the AgriTech Institute that Orly spoke about. We've been working with the Strolling of the Heifers board for over a year to position this new organization in a way to be an important clearinghouse for the development of greater adaptation of technology by smaller farms, as Orly described. Orly has clearly been a visionary person in the movement of, as she said, connecting farmers with food, accentuating the need for local supplies of food provided by local farmers. So the AgriTech Institute is on the one hand an advance and the next step of Strolling's mission, and on the other hand it's really a new entry to the community of support for dairy farms and smaller farms in the Vermont agricultural landscape. And there Roger Albee has been a very important voice, both in his career and also in his service on the board of Strolling. So again, there's a transition from Strolling to the AgriTech Institute in terms of Orly's vision and in terms of Roger's involvement, lifelong involvement in enabling Vermont agriculture to prosper. So the Institute is really designed to be a clearinghouse for technology, really not being set up to be an advocacy group for agriculture. It's really designed to be of service to the other advocacy groups and support groups that exist throughout Vermont and the Northeast to enable small-scale farming, agriculture to prosper. The more specific focus of the Institute is really twofold. One is to seek out technologies that can enable farms to prosper financially. Second is to seek out technologies that can enable small farms to get on the front lines of assisting with combating climate change. So there's really a double approach, both farm viability and to address climate change, and to identify technologies that can assist with both of those objectives. I think the recognition is that smaller scale farms, particularly dairy farms, have had trouble with cash flow. And when you're crimped on cash flow, it's difficult to adopt technologies. So that's what the AgriTech Institute is really trying to do as the objective. Assist with financing, assist with identification of technologies that can be beneficial, and then to work with the groups throughout the region that are working with farmers and serve as a clearinghouse and as a backup for that effort to bring technology to the farm community. We're a year into the effort. We are in the fundraising stage, and we're also in the process of identifying technologies that we think can serve as initial examples of how the Institute can operate, and seeking to find support among the land trusts, the Agency of Agriculture across the state to promote the use of the new technologies. So that's the function of the Institute. I tip my hat to the board for their longtime service, both for the idea of enabling small-scale agriculture to flourish against the tremendous forces of consolidation and that have occurred throughout our economy. You guys have been a true bright light, and for all of us that have been involved in agriculture, there's this bright light in Brattleboro that has shined, much appreciated for all these years.
Kate, would you like to speak and say a few words?
Yes, I'd love to. First, I just want to say thank you, Orly, and the board of the Strolling of the Heifers for thinking of Downtown Brattleboro Alliance and for us to carry on this small piece of your legacy. So as Orly mentioned, the stroll, the event, really brought a lot of community and vibrancy to downtown, as well as the Slow Living Summit and other areas focusing on education. And all of those pieces are core to the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance's mission. So at this point, I really feel, anything is possible, and we are excited about the potential. We'll be forming a committee to start to think about what this means for the DBA going forward. And again, we're just so excited about what's next. Thank you.
Chloe, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Although I'm still a little speechless, it was a big surprise and a huge honor to be on the receiving end of this legacy also. I think, Orly, listening to you talk about it, I had this crazy idea. It's like, yeah, we kind of had this crazy idea at Winston Prouty to take over the former Austin School campus because it's a community asset and we felt like we could steward it to its next life. And so it feels like there's a real, to have the belief in that project and going forward, it's very affirming that we will be able to take the legacy that the stroll has started and really such a huge impact on our community. And this project will have an impact on our community. So figuring out how to build that, we're in the process of conceptual design. We're really talking about lots of housing for lots of people and helping them figure out like how their connection to the land is absolutely part of our planning. So we're looking forward to continuing that work and are deeply, deeply grateful to you and the board.
Eric, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Orly, we appreciate you and the board for donating the tents. They'll certainly be put to good use at the retreat for our events, especially on the front lawn. I'm thinking back now when we talk about the strolling of the first planning of someone having to explain to me the process of what the event was. I think I had to hear it 3 times before it finally set in of there's cows and downtown. And how does the retreat fit in? But it really was a great opportunity for us, and I'll be grateful for it too, because it pulls so many of our community partners together when we got in planning sessions and meeting so many different people and a role that everyone played in that. I know the retreat was proud to be a partner in that. So everything from parking to flow and street closures, and it was always a great experience of working with the strolling event. So we're proud of our history of participating there.
So I'd like to introduce, some of our board members are here, others were unable to attend. And Roger Albee has really helped this year, a board member, but he's been co-president with Jack Davidson. And Roger, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you, Orly. It's been inspirational what Orly has done. I remember when she first came up with the idea of strolling of the heifers, and she mentioned that running of the bulls in Spain. And I said, well, running bulls on Main Street probably wouldn't work. But it became an inspiration to see how it brought attention to not only the dairy industry, but agriculture in Brattleboro. It was an iconic event. And I even hear today people internationally saying, does Brattleboro still have strolling of the heifers? It brought attention not only to the dairy industry, to the state, to the regions, even nationally in terms of what a food system means with the dairy industry and agriculture in Vermont. Not only with Wyndham Grows, which helped many businesses grow and survive in the region, but it's an event that only somebody with Orly's dogged determination could have brought off, and I hope that what the legacy today is talking about continues in some way of bringing that again to the region and to Vermont.
Jack, would you like to say a few words? Jack's been with the Strolling of the Heifers since day one, and I still remember when I told Jack about this, and here he is today, 22 years later.
Well, I was a neighbor to Orly and I agreed to help her. And then I was stunned at her abilities. And so, I hope this is not impolite, but I'm Orly's secretary.
Greg Warden, another board member, who has been with the Stroll since day one. And there's a few others that couldn't attend, I'm sorry. But I'd like you to say a few words first.
Obviously, the Stroll helped bring attention to downtown and to Brattleboro in a way that probably few things could. Being a store on Main Street, we still have people coming in year after year saying, is the parade still going to happen, or when's the next parade type thing? So people, remembered it. It was something that was in their thoughts. And this is coming from all over the country. I mean, people come from California, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, everywhere, saying the same thing. They've heard about the Stroll, or they've seen the Stroll, or they want to see the Stroll, or when's the next one? When do we see it? And the legacy that it developed, will continue with AgriTech Institute, and we're grateful for that. It's not going to have the same impact on downtown, but the monies that go to the DBA will give the downtown group an opportunity to figure out how to continue that connection between the farms and the downtown. So we're grateful for that.
Monroe?
Yes, I'm the new fellow on the block.
Well, actually, I think it's like, what, 14 years? He's the young one.
And and as all of us age, we've seen that it's sort of time to pass things along to a younger generation. It's been a real honor and privilege to be on the board and part of the organization with these other with the other members here, and see how it's grown and evolved over the years, and look forward to its continued support of the small farms through the AgriTech Institute. So.
And Donna Simons, unfortunately, due to family visitors, wasn't able to attend, and she is also from the first day of the Stroll. So we can open it up for some questions, and if anybody has a question, we're happy to take it.
So I'm Kevin O'Connor, I work for Vermont Digger. So does the Strolling of the Heifers as a board and an organization continue, or does that move on to the new institute?
You want to listen?
Well, part of it moves on. The new institute will have a separate board. Dan, you might want to address that.
So the Strolling is a 501c3 organization incorporated in Vermont as a nonprofit 501c3, and the name of Strolling has been changed to the institute. So the organization is now known as the AgriTech Institute for Small Farms, and the board continues. The existing board remains as a board with new membership. So some of the members of the current board will be retiring after their long service, and some of the board members, Roger and Monroe, will be staying on the board, and then we'll be adding, we have added new board members as well. So it's a transition of an existing organization from Strolling to the AgriTech Institute for Small Farms. And the transition is both in terms of the name of the organization and in the board membership.
So that means Strolling is disbanding. The Strolling of the Heifers has or is disbanding?
As it stood, yes, but it moved on to new ideas. And our hope is that, if other organizations would like to take an event like this that is a fundraiser and bring it more, up to date. We're here and we're happy to
So
help.
no parade in '23 then?
I guess not.
Another question was, after you sold the River Garden, you got quite a little bit of cash. Does that cash transfer to the Institute, or are you going to be making further grants in the future?
We transferred some of the funds to the Institute and made donations.
So all that money's gone? Do you have a list of the donations you would supply us with later?
Excuse me?
Do you have a list of the donations that you would give us later?
Well, I mentioned to you, we gave some to
Sure.
the,
But I thought you got about $500,000 for the sale of the River Garden.
well, we had expenses as well.
Okay. Thanks, Orly.
Orly, are you going to be putting out a press release? You're throwing a lot at us here with money.
I wasn't planning on.
Okay, so let me just run through some things real quick. So no parade next year. The Strolling of the Heifers is transitioning to Ag Institute. $25,000 is going to downtown Brattleboro, and that money will be used for what?
It's earmarked to continue the legacy of the Strolling of the Heifers. What that means for the DBA is to be determined. So we're going to be working, in a committee structure to figure out how to best do that within our mission.
Tents and infrastructure from the actual parade goes to the retreat, and then the institute. And then 175K goes. Can you explain what you're doing?
So Winston Prouty is doing campus development. We bought the former Austin School campus and we're looking at housing development. And so using this money in the planning to build into elements of like 300 units of housing is what we're talking about. And so into that design, building in mechanisms for people to be connected to the land, their food.
Like gardens and whatnot.
Yeah, or whatever. It's sort of
Farm.
like Kate said, like it's earmarked for whatever sort of emerges in that process.
Gotcha. And then the institute will actually have a brick and mortars, or like will it have a location and like staff, or like how does the institute actually work?
Yeah, it's seed funding to develop an institute, yeah. So the funding from Strolling is the seed funding to be built upon to establish an institute, yeah, brick and mortar and staff.
And how much was the funding? I'm forgetting.
150 last year and 120 this year.
Okay, gotcha.
And people want to donate, they can go online to do that on your website?
Yeah,
Okay.
so the AgriTech Institute has its own website. Right now it links back to the Strolling website to make donations, and relatively soon we will merge those so it won't be quite so cumbersome to do the donations.
I have a question. Melanie Winters from the Reformer. Do you have any future fundraising or money-making plans for the new institute?
Yeah, it's pretty much straightforward, seeking donations and grant funding, federal and state grants. I'm in the process right now of submitting a grant application to the Dairy Innovation Center to support our first pilot project. We received some seed funding for that particular project from the Linalac Foundation. So we have our first prototype pilot project for the initial technology with initial foundation seed funding, and we're looking to back that with a grant fund from the Dairy Innovation Center.
Chris Ryer from the Reformer. Now, is there any programs currently going on right now that you're doing, or is it just all seed development?
Well, we're really just in the beginning stages of establishing the institute. So, but we are in the startup phase of our first pilot project. We've chosen the technology. We're going to do a pilot test of geofencing, which is using GPS location for establishing virtual fencing boundaries for cattle enclosure. So instead of wire and post fencing, it's similar to the dog fence, where you bury a line in the ground and put a collar on the dog, and if the dog steps over the line, gets a shock. Instead of having a wire and a fence, you have a virtual line set up through GPS locating. Same idea. There's an auditory signal instead of a shock mechanism, but it establishes fencing boundaries for cattle, and you can move your cattle in real time. You take your phone and redo the fencing. So it's a much more efficient manner of fencing. The technology is established in Europe. 4 different companies in the States are doing piloting, so we're part of one of the pilots of one of those companies. And we're in the process right now of picking our initial farms to use as the test farms. So this pilot will be up and running in the spring, our first pilot.
So no more roundups. Just gonna press a button and the cows are gonna come home.
Now, you have a new website, and that mentions a pilot project with 25 Vermont farms. Is that the project that you're talking about?
Good question. The larger design is to develop a group of 25 farms to be really a working laboratory to identify technologies through a dialogue with working farms about, we're looking for established technologies that are in application in other places and leading edge technologies that are in development, that in those 2 groups of technologies that can be beneficial, and engage with this working group of 25 farms to identify workable and usable technologies in those 2 groups. So that's our overall group of farms that we want to have as a laboratory. So that's longer term. The initial test is with just 3 to 5 farms to get the process moving. There's the identification and the financing. So we're developing the process. At the same time, we're trying to develop what amounts to a cohort of 25 farms.
So Anson Tebbet's quote on the website praising the idea of a pilot program is talking about the goal of 25 farms.
He's talking about really the concept of piloting technology in test application to try it out for broader application to the farm community. That's really what he's speaking in favor of. And those are 2 components, the initial test of 3 to 5 and the cohort of 25, to get us to the capability to do testing and rollout.
And would a better word than disbanding be metamorphosis?
The transition, I think, has fewer syllables, so that's not
Okay.
that's what we're.
Just forgive me, Dan.
Sure.
You said the 2 rounds of funding. There were 2 rounds of seed
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah.
Did that come from Strolling as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So we're talking a significant. You're upwards of 300K from Strolling.
250.
250 plus 25 plus 175 plus 10s. Okay. So you're throwing a lot at us here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
We hope that what we have planted will grow into new ideas and thrive really well.
And just Orly, one question for you. I mean, you started this 20-something years ago. Widely successful.
Had no idea.
Yeah, widely successful. I mean, is there? I'm assuming you're happy that the legacy and the sort of the impact and the goal of Strolling the Heifers is living on, but the 7,000 people who come downtown and the activity and the businesses and the economic development, all that stuff that's Strolling Britain, you're losing that a little bit. And I'm just wondering, is there a little bit of, what's your reaction as this take?
Number one, COVID made it very difficult for us to have the parade and festival. And there are other issues of expenses and so forth and safety. We're in a different time than when the Strolling and the Heifers started and as it grew. And it's time to cultivate new ideas and for passing on the torch to the next generation to do that. We're all retired.
Do you see content with the future of the mission?
I think better ideas will come. I really do. A lot of younger people are moving to Vermont, and our younger generation has incredibly better ideas than we have. So I am totally, positively thinking that it will even be better, especially with the work that Daniel's doing and the other organizations.
Orly insists on calling me Daniel.
Because I
When
have
I'm
a
in
son
trouble,
named
but I do this when
Daniel.
I'm not in trouble.
I have a son named Daniel. Everybody else calls him Dan except his mom. I'm sure your mother calls you Daniel.
The only when I'm in trouble. That's it. Every time you say Daniel, I'm like, ah, no, I'm not in trouble. This is a good thing we're getting going.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys can stick around, I'm gonna wanna talk one-on-one.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and partnership and support over these many years. Thank you.
Specific